thank you so much for allowing us to join Scroll Stage and be in front of your lovely developer community. That's very important for SubQuery and for myself, because the whole core mission of SubQuery is actually to help builders build, to help developers get their data from the chain in a faster, in a more efficient way, in a more developer-friendly way, so that they can power up their application with data and focus on their end product or an end user's growth and so on, and really outsource indexing. So yeah, basically that's the mission of SubQuery, and I'm very, very grateful for the stage here. We're very happy to be here, especially the fact that Scroll community is growing so strong. It's great to be here. So for today call, I think we will, just to give you a little agenda. And before jumping into the agenda, I'm Marta. Hi, I work in SubQuery. I lead BD and DevRel. So definitely I'm the person to talk to about SubQuery indexer, about any technical issues. So definitely drop me a line here on Discord if you have any question. I will also share with you a link to our Discord, SubQuery Discord community, so you can join us there. There is a technical channel, technical support channel, so any technical question is welcome there. And yeah, without further ado, let's see the next slide. Can you tell me if everything is moving also for you and you see a next slide? This is about the agenda. So as I planned for the for our workshop, it should be around 40 minutes, 30 minutes. What we want to do is actually to describe a little bit the problem discovery, the problem behind SubQuery, why we actually build our solution, and what problems are we solving for end users and for developers. Thank you so much, Soj94. Great that everything is visible. And then what I want to discuss is also, of course, the overview of SubQuery, like what SubQuery is, how we solve this problem. But I don't want us to spend too much time there. The whole idea is to actually jump into the code, see the project running, and actually get some data indexed. So the core part of our time today will be actually going into SubQuery project and doing some live indexing, and I have a prepared project for you. And then, yeah, there will be time for any questions, so feel free to ask, drop in the chat, and I will pick them from the chat. So let's discuss SubQuery problem. Thank you so much, all of you, who's telling me that everything works fine. I appreciate your support. So, as I said, the problem behind SubQuery. Essentially, blockchain is ideally it's designed greatly for storing the data. It's solving a lot of problems. However, it's also causing some problems. Essentially, it's not very easy, or it's not very efficient to query data from the chain. It takes a lot of time. And what we are solving for our builders, for any developer who needs some data from the chain, is ability to get the data in a fast and efficient way, and also in the shape that is easily digestible by their application. So essentially, you have a control on the shape of the data, and it's very easy for you to power up your front-end layer or whatever you're building with data indexed by SubQuery. And so the one problem is how to index, where to index data, and how to index data. And we think about SubQuery as an end-to-end blockchain solution. So not only we provide an open source indexer that allows you to get this data from the chain, and we will, in practice, try out how the indexer works, but we also provide an option to host it with our infrastructure. So, as I said, we have an open source indexer. We have also managed services with some limited test free options for you to test the waters, to experiment with deployment, and with different plans that suit needs of different projects. So it's not obligatory to host it with our services. You can host it locally with AWS or any other providers, but yeah, we also provide this option. And we are also working on a decentralized network marketplace, which is essentially a place where you can fully decentralize your stack and join the community, join the network as a data indexer or data consumer. So essentially there is some open marketplace for people who need data and people who can index data for others, right? And we already have, I will tell you more about it, but we do have a pre-mainnet launch. This is Kepler Network, and I will share links with you later. You're welcome to take a look, to join the community, and also stay tuned for the launch of our mainnet soon. No official date yet. Okay, so for now we know that SubQuery is an end-to-end blockchain indexing solution that we provide indexer, managed services, and also decentralized network, and that we are solving issue around non-efficient data query. And another issue, just a question for you guys, do we have builders? Hopefully we do in the community. I see some actually nicknames that I recognize, so I know that those belong to developers. So definitely some of you know exactly the problem SubQuery is helping with around data query. So asking chain directly for data is not really efficient. Sooner or later you will need to build your own indexer or use some of the indexers that are available out there. And another problem that we are solving is actually cross-chain data indexing. If you want to get data from different ecosystems, every chain has some specifics. There are different APIs, different data handlers, so you have to really work on unifying the data, and then you need to develop your own indexer, you need to maintain it. It's not an easy task, and maybe it's not even a rocket science, but it's time consuming, and definitely there is there are better tasks for you to focus on, which are related with your end functionality and your end users than developing indexing. You can rely on tested, accomplished indexers out there, right? And then going to the next slide. So why SubQuery? I would start from the top right part. It's open source. So yes, we believe in an open source technology. Everything is on GitHub. You're more than welcome to explore our repositories, fork our code, get the project from there. You can also download our SubQuery projects through SubQuery CLI, and you can customize it to your liking. You can tweak the project as you need, so it suits your unique indexing needs, which makes it perfect. It's easy. We made it easy to use and easy to develop. So it's super adjustable, flexible, customizable. It's written in TypeScript. It's easy to read. It's type saved, and it works in Docker environment. So it's definitely a smooth developer experience. It's also simple. Thank you, Enduro. Yeah, we really want to make it open source. And by simple, what I mean, there are basically 3 files that you are interacting with when you're developing with SubQuery. I will go through those 5 step by step, so you will see that. But those are just 3, and definitely this makes it a smooth experience, and the learning curve is not that big. So we also provide robust detailed documentation, video tutorials, and we do also those initiatives as today, really trying to collaborate with a network that we support as Scroll, and get in front of you as builders, make sure that we share all the actionable information so that you can easily kickstart your project. Cool. And then it's customizable, as I said. So in the schema file that we will see in a sec, you can define the shape of your data. You have a full control over how you will present the data in your front-end layer, how you save it in a Postgres database, and this gives you a power, right? And on top of that, there are other parts of the project that are customizable, like manifest file configuration, where you set what and from where you want to index, and also mappings file, where you get the data from the chain and all the magic happens. So essentially you're transforming the data, raw data from the chain, into the shape you want it, and you save it in a database that you can then query, because behind the curtain we also provision GraphQL API endpoint for you to query this data. And it's feature rich. So we have a lot of developers, like 20 developers or so, working for 2 years plus on this indexer. So who has such resources, you know, to spend on indexer? We are fully committed to it. So definitely we are working on constant optimization of it. So it's faster, it's smoother, the developer experience is great, and so on. We listen to users' feedback. So don't forget to share like any feedback with us. It's always priceless. But we also add more and more features. So we have a lot of them, like GraphQL subscriptions, historical state querying, real-time data querying, but also scaffolding projects, which essentially can take all the can take your ABI file and build a lot of your project based on the ABI for a certain smart contract, which means like 70-80% of the project will be done with one command. So this is available for EVM and Cosmos networks, but this is super powerful. And it's fast. As I mentioned, we work on optimization, constantly work on the optimization, because, you know, nowadays the time is precious, and performance of our application is a critical factor. And it's also fast, because where indexers really shine is where you have a specific need and you don't index, you know, all the data from the chain, but you really focus on this part that you want. And this is exactly what will happen today. We will index a part of the data on the chain that we need. Of course, we have users from different ecosystems and verticals that are also taking all the data from the chain, like blockchain explorer use cases. They need all the data. However, the majority of use cases are applications that teams, individual developers who need a specific part of the data. And this makes it faster than querying the data directly from the chain if you have this specific use case. And as I mentioned also, we do have access to real-time data. So as soon as they appear on the blockchain, we can already index them. And the big advantage of SubQuery is already mentioned multi-chain indexing, which allows you essentially within one project to index data from different ecosystems, Cosmos, Substrate, EVM, and not every project will have this architecture and will want to have everything in one project, data coming from different data sources. But for many of them, this is a big advantage because it makes it easier. You have one project, the data shape is exactly the same, the end data shape, and it's way easier for the developer. And then it's compatible, SubQuery is compatible with EVM and VASM, big ecosystem, thriving ecosystems with a lot of DApps. So easy to adopt, easy to use. Okay, so this is all like a high overview of the SubQuery solution. And then I also want to mention, because this is something that we are very proud of. We already support more than 110 networks across different ecos. So as you can see, there is quite a number of parachains that we support in Polkadot. We are also the leading indexer in Cosmos ecosystem. We support Near, Stellar, and Algorand. And of course, we also support EVM networks, and the number, this might be even outdated, I have to say. Like, I think I got this graphic added like a few days ago to this presentation deck, and it might be outdated because we're bringing support for more and more network. Thank you, Fan, from our SubQuery Vietnam community, for sharing the link to all the list of networks that we currently support. This is the source of knowledge about networks that we support. And by supported networks, I mean that SubQuery provides a boilerplate project for each of those networks that you can easily download through SubQuery CLI or just take it from our GitHub, and without changing it, running it in your Docker environment, and get yourself some data index out of the box. No tweaking, no needs, no configuration setting. It works out of the box for all of those networks, and we will see such a boiler project live, like in our demo in a few seconds. So this is huge, like plus 110 networks. And going further, so as I mentioned, you can easily access starter projects, boilerplate projects for each network. Here is the QR code for our Scroll repo, and I will also share with you, just give me a sec, a link in our chat. So this would be the Scroll starter. So this is exactly the code base of this project today. So you can follow it with me using the link. You can check it later. Up to you. And going back to the presentation. So there are a few dependencies. Of course, what we need is Node.js. We also need Docker. I've mentioned that this is run in Docker environment. Both tools most of us use every day, and rightly so. And this is also why we designed it this way, so to make it as comfortable for developers and as easy to use. Thanks, Severin, for your question. Is the recording, if recording will be available later? Yes, we will share it. I'm recording it. Also, Juan is recording it, and probably Scroll and SubQuery team will share it with communities, SubQuery for sure. So yeah, definitely we'll share it. So yeah, so you have Docker, you have Node.js, and also SubQuery CLI that you can download using this npm install general SubQuery CLI command, and get yourself a package that will be able to be used to run and download and then run SubQuery boilerplate projects. And 3 simple steps that we'll go through in our coding part. So we will get ourselves into schema file, and we will look at the data shape, and this is the step that you will do working with SubQuery, defining the objects in your database, defining the shape of tables in your database. Then where we want to go is manifest file. So this is a configuration file where you configure your endpoints and filters. So essentially you're answering the question what and where you want to index from. And another thing, and the last file that we are going to look at is mappings file, which is the file where magic happens. So essentially you get the data from the chain and you do something with it according to the logic of the project and save it in your database. So those are the 3 steps: schema file, manifest file, and mappings file. Okay, and before we jump into the code, a bit more links also for you. Essentially, the goal of the whole demo call today is to actually get transfers and approvals from Wrapped ETH on Sepolia testnet indexed. And here you can see that there is, by here I mean in our chat, I'm sending this the link to Scroll SubQuery guide. It's also featured here on the presentation slide and also in a QR code. Essentially, you can go there, and this is like a robust step-by-step a guide into the project that I will be showing you, explaining every part of it. So if you have to go right now, you can do it later with this guide, and it will work fine for you. You can stay with me, please do, and follow the guide as well. So essentially, those 2 resources are quite important and also useful for you. Okay, so yeah, so let's see the SubQuery project in action. Before we do, let me know if you see my terminal. Probably you do, but just if you could confirm, because I've changed window applications. Windows. Just a browser window. Okay, so you see the repository, or right now the documentation, right? Scroll Sepolia testnet. Okay, gotcha. What I want to show you is the terminal. I mean, and code editor. So let me just see if I can readjust what I'm showing, okay? Give me just a sec. Okay, I have to change the window. Okay, now you should be able to see Visual Studio Code. Thank you. Great, thanks for helping me out. Thanks. Okay, cool. So this is now we are in the coding part, and what we want to focus on is actually start the project. We want to get this boilerplate project downloaded that I mentioned, and to do so we just need to run one command, which is actually SubQuery init, and this will start our SubQuery CLI. I'll just give it a few seconds, and then we can name your project. Let's do the scroll workshop. And then we can choose from different networks families the boilerplate that we are interested in. So of course you can see a few different ecosystems, but we will go with EVM networks. So to do that, I just need to press enter, and then I need to go through all the networks that we support. And as you can see, there is plenty of them, and here is our testnet on scroll. So I need to choose that I want to go with this starter. Sometimes in one network we have more than one starter. That's why we have an option to choose, and then you will be able to either provide different settings or use our default setup. So I'm using the default setup. You can change it later on without any issue. So all of them will be something that we are using the default setup for. And there is also a question if I want to use an ABI for existing ABI contract for creating the project scaffolding, which will essentially get all the info from there and create according functions, methods in the project. I don't want to do it. You are more than welcome to try it out on your own. Right now I want to focus on the simple boilerplate project as it is without this feature of project scaffolding, but I do recommend trying it out because it will save you a lot of time. And that's it. When we go into the scaffolding here on the left side, the whole project, we'll see some files were generated. So this is great. And then let's go into the project. And what I want to do before we will jump into the code, I also want to run one command more, so the project will start actually building up. What I want to do is to install all the dependencies, so that will allow it to happen in the background. You can take a few moments. Bear in mind, this is I have like a clean environment, so I have to do it as you would do for the first time with SubQuery from the scratch. And then let's go into the code. So the first thing I want to look at is our schema GraphQL. This is the file that I've already mentioned a few times. So this is essentially a place where you define the shapes in your the data shape or objects in your database. This is a reflection of the tables in your database. So this is how it would look like. We will have transfer table and approval table. And you can have, of course, more objects with more properties. And this is all adjustable as you want. So essentially, sky is the limit. Or your creativity or your project requirements are the limits, right? This project here is rightly so a simple one, focusing on transfers and approvals from Wrapped ETH on Sepolia, but you can definitely have more objects and have more complex subquery projects. And in this file also you define a relationship between objects, so one to many, many to many relations, and so on. This is all happening here. And then I want to show you another file. if you have any question, drop me a line. I'm looking at the chat all the time. And going now to manifest file. So the second file I want to show you, project ETH. This is the file where you configure your project. This is the file where you answer the question what and where you want to index from. And essentially what we are looking at on top, those are just like, you know, some imports, then basic configuration, nothing important really, and what I want to focus is network and data sources. So essentially in this part here, you have to define the chain ID and also the endpoint. So from where you want to index your data. As you can see, this is an array, so you can have more than one endpoint. If one doesn't work, then indexer will use another one. By default, we are providing those chain ID and the endpoint, but you can definitely change it. Each part of this file you are able to change to your private endpoint, to other endpoint you are using. So this is it. And then the data sources. This is the part where you define your filters and actually you're answering questions what you want to index, right? So we have our from, and what we want to do, what we want to index, what we want to do now is to answer the question what we want to index, like what part of the data from the chain. And in this case, what's happening here is that starting from the block 1, this is the default setting, we are going to index all the transactions that are actually were called with the approve method on them. And then for the events, we will index all the emitted transfer events on the contract, starting from the block 1, right? Does it make sense? So essentially what happens behind the curtain is that indexer attaches itself to the chain, and it will go from block 1, block by block by block, and every time it will encounter event or a transaction that is matching our filters, it will index the data. It will actually execute a corresponding method from mappings file, and it will be either a handle transaction for this project or a handle log, and will get your data saved in a Postgres database. And SubQuery also provisions GraphQL API endpoint, so then you can query this Postgres database and get your answers, get your data. You can sort this data. We will see it in how it works in a second. And yes, this makes it easier because you don't have to go block by block on your own, and you don't have to ask chain directly, so it saves you ton of time. And so this would be the manifest file. And as you can see, our yarn install finished. So what I want to do is actually to build up the project and start the Docker. To do so, I would change, for the sake of our workshop, I would change the start block. So right now it's quite high, quite low, which means that it will index all the data from the day 1 from the Genesis hash. And what I want to do is to have a newer block, so it's a bit faster. And thank you, Bohenon. do you know from which country I am? And then let me just check. You know, I won't change the screen sharing settings, so you'll see my code just to save us some time. But what I want to do is to actually go to Sepolia blockchain Explorer and pick up latest block on Wrapped ETH, and using this, and I will just start indexing from a block that happened a few minutes ago or something. It will be faster. You know, if you have to index from the beginning, It may take some time, but then when it catches up with the recent blocks, it's super fast, right? And for we have limited time, so that's why I'm going for this option. Okay, so let me just copy it into the code, not chain ID. I want to change the block height. Okay, and what I want to do now is to actually build up the project. You can run either one command, which is yarn dev, and it will do 3 steps for you. It will essentially execute, let's actually look at this in here. So the dev command will do subquery code gen, build, and then docker run. You can do those commands separately. What happens is that we will create all the types needed, we will build up the project, and we will we'll start Docker engine, right? So let's just do it. Let's do the yarn dev and let it go, and let's go to mappings file. So allow a few moments for it to pick up the work. Let me see if you guys have any question. Yes, thank you, Vasnovic. I'm not sure if I pronounce it correctly, your nickname. Yes, we will have a recording after the presentation. Of course, we will share with our SubQuery community, and I bet Scroll DevRel team also will share the recording of this workshop. Essentially, we want you to be equipped with all the knowledge to get it done and be able to use SubQuery easily, so no worries here. Okay, so as you can see, some images are being pulled. This is great sign. And then I see that my Docker is running, and what I want to focus at is mappings handler. So I told you that this is the place where magic happens, right? This is where you get data from the chain, and you transform it, you do something with it, and then you save it in your database. This is a simple project, and mappings handlers are quite short, but you can definitely imagine, you know, like for instance, DEX project. There is a lot of objects to get indexed, and then you can even have like multiple mappings handlers files. But anyway, here we are with our handle log and handle transaction. As you can probably you've noticed that this function name exactly matches the function in the handler name in our manifest file. I want to show it to you again, just a sec. Oh, here. So here we have a handle log, and we have handle transaction. So those two are exact match with mappings handlers, where we also have the same function. So what I told you is that when the indexer encounters an event or the transaction on the chain, yes, I found that I need to run again. Thank you so much. So what I will do is to actually do yarn start docker. Yes, something went wrong. Probably, you know, also the fact that I'm streaming and a lot of things happening on my computer. I don't know. I didn't pay attention to error logs. Sometimes it happens. Thanks, Fan. I've noticed this. I wanted to finish my thought and then run it again, but yeah, good catch. Good catch. Okay, so going back to mappings handler. So. Mappings handler. So we have handle log and handle transaction. We get some data from the chain in the payload of this function. And what is essentially happening here, that for each the properties, each field in the object, we are actually populating it with the data coming from the chain. And this is it. And then we save it in the database. And we do the same thing for the approval object, right? We get the data from the chain, and then we access it, and we populate object properties with the data. with the data from the chain. So this is it. And then we save it in a database. Easy, easy. Thank you so much, Fan, again, from our Vietnam community. Thanks for supporting us. Yeah, probably the public endpoint that we are using for the default project has some, is rate limited. So probably this is what happened. But I actually see that we have some blocks being queued now. It's looking good. Let me check on my localhost 3000 if we have some response to it. Yes, we are actually getting some data index as we speak. So before I show you our playground and the result of the data query, what I want to say in that moment is that you can change a lot in that project, and in that moment as well you can use external libraries, you can use external API calls. Sky is the limit. So but for instance, before saving data in your database, what you could do is if you want to index some swaps, for instance, you want to get the prediction from CoinGecko and compare the prediction from CoinGecko with the result of the swap, and maybe you want to save it somehow in your database, like this matched the prediction or it didn't, right? Just an example. So you can be very creative here, and this is all highly customizable and highly flexible, as I mentioned, and I think this makes it really interesting. And then I want to show you the playground. So I would need to go to my browser. So let me just allow to change. You should see my browser now. Yes, that's great. And essentially, on your port, on localhost 3000 port, you're able to use our playground and see some data in action, see some data being indexed. I prepared a simple query here, which is indexing just transfers, and of course, you know, all the properties of the object that we set up in our schema GraphQL file. And essentially what I do is to click play, and then I will get some data indexed. And we see that we have a total count of 76 items being indexed, and then objects, transactions being indexed, and we are actually ordering it by descent. But you can change it, and you can, this is the power of GraphQL. You can actually sort the data as you want, and we also provision like cool documentation here and schemas, so you can actually play and see what's possible and how you can sort the data out. So this is essentially it. I see some question in the chat. So what endpoints are best to use? The best endpoints to use would be an archive unpruned node, because we provide historic state query, and for that you need an archive node. And there is it depends on the network. Sometimes there is a network provides this for the community, right? So you have like publicly accessible and not really rate limited archive nodes, unpruned nodes. Sometimes it's harder than that, and you need to use some of the providers, right? And this is definitely something you can decide on yourself. Use something available out there. Definitely for testing, it can be a publicly accessible one, or for your production project, use something private, but you can change the endpoint. You have a full control over it. Okay, and what I want to go back to our presentation now. There are few things more that I want to show you. So just a quick recap, right? I told you what SubQuery is, what problem are we solving, And also I showed you free files, schema, GraphQL, manifest file, and mappings handlers where you want to index data, that you want to work with when indexing data. And we got some data index transfers from the Wrapped ETH on Sepolia testnet. I invite you to stay tuned for our mainnet launch, and also you can check our Kepler network, pre-mainnet network. This is a fully decentralized solution for indexing your data. You can go there and become an indexer or consume some data indexed by others. So totally stay tuned for the launch, and yeah, you're welcome to look around and become a part of our community. And if you need more information, please do go to our documentation. We have a robust, a lot of step-by-step guides for different networks, and also robust documentation around optimization of your project, around a lot of the features that I've mentioned, like project scaffolding, or historic state querying, or any other. You will find there information, so it's pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, thank you so much for being here. Please do drop me a line, connect with me on Telegram, and a warm invite to join our SubQuery Discord. If you could share with our community here the proper link to our Discord, I would appreciate. I'm not sure why this is invalid, but essentially, yes, please do come join us on our Discord. Drop me a line, stay tuned, and definitely please share any feedback you may have. We are listening really closely to feedback from developers. We built our tool as developers for developers. So what we essentially want is a smooth experience, error-free, hassle-free, but also, yes, any feedback wanted. So please take a look, explore SubQuery, and let us know how your experience is. And saying so, once again, thank you so much, Scroll, for giving us the stage. Thank you all for coming. That was absolutely great to be here. Thank you all for all the comments and questions. And there is a place now for and time for more questions. So I will take more if you have. And I will also let Juan know that we are about to end. Thank you so much for being here. Yes, I will allow a few moments more if you have any other question. But please remember, you are more than welcome to actually drop me a question later. And also in our Discord, Suchi, a lovely lady from our community, asked me, please, guys, come to our technical support channel with any technical question. There is a big community of developers helping other developers. And of course, our team members are tuning in to see what's happening on Discord technical channel, and we provide technical support. So reach out. Very happy to be here. Thank you so much for your time.